Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Benjamin Cure Show on this Monday where we are talking all basketball. That's right. I know the NFL draft is coming up. I'm excited about it too, but a lot of the rumors that you're hearing starting to pop up now are the same ones we've been hearing about, or they're these false narratives. I'm not going to give it too much attention. We'll address it more next week, the week after that. We've got plenty of more time for the NFL draft. That's why I did my mock. I feel like everything that's coming out now surrounding the draft is a lot of last minute hoopla and misdirection that's coming out from teams who are trying to get players to rise or drop depending on who they want and who they want their other competitors to pick. But today's a big basketball show. Women's college basketball, men's college basketball. Of course, tonight, UConn is going to try to repeat for their national championship. It's going to be a great game. I can't wait for it. This show will probably be out a little bit before that. It'll probably be out around 9 p.m., so it'll be interesting to see who wins. I will talk about Bronny in a little bit. He declared for the NBA draft on Friday. What does it mean for him? Who's influencing this decision? What does he look like at the next level? I'll discuss it in just a bit. Also, AD going out of the game with an eye poke last night. Not ideal situation over the weekend for him. I feel like there's an unfair narrative surrounding his situation and his circumstance that I'm going to get to in a bit. But first, I want to start with, of course, our women who have been the best headline over the past several weeks in college basketball, I would say, and I'm going to stand by that. South Carolina wins their third national championship since 2017, their second national championship in just 3 years. Dawn Staley is one of the best basketball coaches out there, period, I think. When you look at what they had to overcome, they lost 5 of their starters last season, not just the graduation, not just because they got a little bit too old, but because those players, their talent was excellent. They were WNBA worthy, which means they've got to get shipped off. They've got to play at the next level. They had to totally regroup. This was a younger team, a totally different identity. Dawn Staley admitted throughout the course of the season and in retrospect yesterday after the big win, she said, I had to coach these kids differently. I had to let them be themselves. I had to she called them the daycare over the course of the season. That was really funny to see. I'll be honest, I was a little bit disappointed. I really wanted Caitlin Clark to win just because of what the story would have meant. I said it on this show, I thought this would be a Patrick Mahomes-like season for her where she's not on the best team. Her team is not the best team. Iowa was not the best team 1 through 5. They didn't have the best talent. They weren't the biggest. They weren't the toughest. They weren't the best shooters. But because you had the best player in the world, I thought that would overcome everything else. I thought it would overcome the other elite talent. They beat West Virginia. They beat LSU. They beat UConn on the way to this thing. They beat Paige, who was the other yin and the yang of the top tier WNBA talent or WNBA prospects. I really thought they were going to complete the storybook ending, and they just couldn't. And I said, I realize this now, even before I went on this Caitlin Clark rampage for the last 4 weeks in the show, because it has been admittedly so. I first mentioned South Carolina because they had just finished going undefeated when I spoke about them, I think at the very beginning of March, end of February, and I thought it was so impressive, and I thought they were a team to look out for, and it wasn't a hot take, and I'm not saying it like, I predicted this, but I knew they were the best team in college basketball. I think everybody did if you were being objective, and they proved it in that game against the Iowa Hawkeyes. But for me, it's like Caitlin ends up scoring 18 points. It's not enough. Tessa Thompson goes off. She finishes with a flurry of her own, 19 points off the bench. She was excellent. Camila Cardoso, who was the big man or the big woman for the South Carolina Gamecocks, she just took over in the paint. And I think between what they had in the paint, her being a paint monster, getting offensive rebounds, taking control of the glass, really. And then this year, the difference for the South Carolina Gamecocks was they could shoot from beyond the arc. They could shoot the 3-ball. And that was the big difference to me, where at the end, late in the fourth quarter, when Iowa tried to go on that run, and they did go on a run, it was like 8-2, and they were trying to work their way back into it. This year, the Gamecocks had the 3-point shot. They had the ability to shoot from beyond the arc efficiently, and they did. And any time it felt like Iowa or Caitlin Clark was getting a little bit of a breath of fresh air, trying to make a comeback, those 3-point shots really just killed any momentum they had. I also think a lesser talked about narrative this morning, and I've seen some of the headlines, and I haven't tuned into any of the major shows today, but I feel like on social media it's definitely lost that I haven't seen anybody say it. You don't want to kick somebody while they're down. But in retrospect, if Iowa were to watch this game tape, and I'm not sure if they'll do it as a team because it was their last game of the season, and Caitlin's headed to the WNBA, and the team really just dissolves from here. but I felt like they played really sloppy basketball down the stretch. I mean, one of the things that Caitlin is a great basketball player. She is the greatest women's basketball player of all time, in my opinion, and I'm going to get to that in a second. I don't think that's an overstatement, and I know people will claim accomplishments, and she hasn't even dribbled the ball at the next level yet. I'll explain it. But to me, Caitlin is one of the greatest, right? And when you think of the greatest, especially in basketball, look at LeBron James. LeBron early in his career was always criticized in Cleveland and especially with the Miami Heat for at the end of games in a contentious situation, when the game is close, when the game is on the line, when you're down, why would LeBron James pass the ball to a teammate? And he was criticized heavily for it by Skip Bayless, by Stephen A. Smith. He was killed for it, and it's the reason why so many people don't regard him as the GOAT, or at least initially did not, right? That was the big knock on LeBron. It was the choking against the Mavericks in that first year when he was with Miami Heat, and then it was just his inability to take the final shot. He always was looking to pass, and he's an incredible passer of the basketball, but it was something that hurt his legacy, especially early on. It was something that people talked about a lot. Caitlin, in an effort to be a team player, always team first, always selfless, trying to find her teammates. I feel like in the moments there down the stretch where she was trying to find a teammate, or she was trying to find an opening, or she would drive and then dish, which she did a little bit too much for my liking. At some point, you've got to take those shots. I almost felt like she was setting herself and her team up for failure. You are the best player. You are the best shooter, not just on your team, not just on the court, but like in the entirety of women's college basketball. That's your moment. You're in the national championship game. This is not the moment to dish out the ball to make it seem like you're a team player. Everybody knows you're a team player. Everybody knows you can pass the ball. You have to take the final shot in that game. And she played sloppy. The Iowa team as a whole played sloppy. A lot of turnovers in the end, trying to pass the ball, trying to pass the buck almost afraid to take the last shot. And I know it seems crazy to say that, but that's just what it felt like to me. And just really sloppy basketball. A lot of turnovers, a lot of Caitlin looking for her teammates. I don't think it was that she was afraid to take the last shot in her situation. I'm not going to say that at all. But I do think it was one of those moments where it's like, man, I've seen this before. I saw this play out with LeBron in Miami. I saw what people did to him when he passed up the final shot. It is not a good look. It's back-to-back national championships. It's back-to-back national championship losses. She's a GOAT. She's incredible. But like, come on. In that moment, you know what's on the line. It's your last game as a Hawkeye no matter what. You leave it all out on the court. Don't you want to be in control of the last moments of your game? Don't you want to lose on your terms or win on your terms? That's just the way I see it. But I do want to give props, and I want to make it a point here. The headline right now on your screen is South Carolina winning their third national championship since 2017, and they deserve all the headlines in the world. Just a couple stats that I found to be interesting from them. 37 bench points for South Carolina compared to 0 for Iowa. Iowa had no bench production. It was obvious. It was the defining factor. Tessa Thompson having 19 off the bench for South Carolina was an absolute killer. She performed so well. So many young athletes on that South Carolina team. They're going to run women's college basketball for the foreseeable future, I have no doubt, because their team is so young and they're not losing that many players to the WNBA draft. I think Camilla might be the only one. Like, they're going to be in this for a long time, and good for them, and rightfully so. But now, South Carolina's record since the beginning of the 2021 season is 109 wins and 3 losses. 109-3. Dawn Staley has put on the run of a lifetime, and I think she will eventually get NBA looks, but I'm almost glad that nobody's having the conversation now, because she has such a great opportunity to build something special in South Carolina, and I don't want it to end, and I don't think she wants it to either. Caitlin posted to her Instagram story a picture of her jersey. She took off her jersey, and she put her shoe out, and she said, "I'll miss you." Obviously not the way she wanted it to end. Very tough, but it is what it is. So let's move on to Caitlin. The headline that I have here is GOAT. Caitlin Clark's legacy is, in my opinion, Caitlin Clark is already the GOAT of women's college basketball, of women's basketball, period. And it's not, people are going to argue, oh, she hasn't even stepped on the court for the WNBA bench. She hasn't dribbled the WNBA basketball. She hasn't shot a shot in the WNBA. She hasn't made a single basket. How can you say she's already one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time? And my debate here would be, she is the Magic. She is Michael. She is LeBron. Like, in terms of growing the game and booming the popularity of the league, Magic Johnson did that better than anybody. That's why he got the $25 million contract, the 20-year contract with the Lakers that shocked everybody because he was worth it, making $1 million a year when it was unheard of, right? Michael did the same thing. When Michael left, the NBA lost 50% of their ratings and it killed them for several years. There was nobody to take the mantle. LeBron James right now, alongside Steph Curry, carrying NBA ratings and viewership. What happens when they're gone? It's going to be a problem. Unfortunately for them, I mean them as the NBA and Adam Silver, they don't have Mahomes. They don't have the NFL situation where the next guy is obviously waiting in the wings. Are there people with opportunities to do so, like Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Absolutely. And I'm excited about those players moving forward, but there's not someone to take the mantle. So TV ratings, we know, and attention and interest are heavily based on the biggest stars. Caitlin now, the ratings have not come out for this game, but in her semifinal, 14 million people watched. Against LSU, 12 million people watched. I think 8 or 9 or even 10 million people watched against West Virginia. She is the king, or the queen rather, of ratings right now. And that's what drives TV. That's what drives viewership. That's what drives, in the end, the bottom dollar and the sponsorships and the endorsements for the league, for the NCAA on the women's side, and eventually for the WNBA. She is going to change the game. And I made the argument last week that I thought Caitlin Clark absolutely deserved ownership or a cut of the TV deals because of what we know she's going to bring. Like, let's be honest here. The WNBA draft is, I believe, April 15th, if I'm not mistaken. It's around the corner. It's either April 15th or April 30th. And I apologize for not remembering because it was said a million times yesterday during the broadcast. It is going to be the most watched WNBA draft of all time. Caitlin Clark's opening game, her debut, is going to be the most watched WNBA debut of any WNBA athlete ever. She is going to immediately prove that she is a superstar. And luckily for her, it's like there's not an offseason to take away the momentum for her. Maybe because of rest, this is actually a bad thing. But when it comes to momentum of ratings and of interest, the WNBA draft is right now. The season starts, I think, less than 60 days from now. She's going to be involved with Team USA, who is training and practicing for their Olympic trials right now in Cleveland. She's probably already joined them, if I had to take a guess. It's not a coincidence that they were training in Cleveland during this tournament. They probably expected Caitlin to join the team a little bit earlier than she did, but she made it to the last game. And whether she won the national championship or not, Caitlin Clark is probably now training with the WNBA's best and their finest for Team USA for the Olympics in Paris as they prepare for it. Like, she's going to have a lot of opportunities here to keep her momentum going in terms of stardom and building the brand. And the WNBA is quickly going to realize this is unlike anything else we've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of players that are, you could say, old heads, right? You talk about that when it comes to the NBA, not as much with the WNBA, but certainly veterans in the WNBA who seem a little bit jealous of Caitlin Clark and of the impact and are trying to put it down. I don't love that. I don't love being bitter over someone who is going to boom the popularity of the league more so than any previous star has. You can give me 4 WNBA stars, combine their impact, and it wouldn't be an equal impact to that of Caitlin Clark. And that's not to put down the individuals who have come before Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, but it's just the reality. No one has ever brought this much attention or interest or ratings or viewership or ticket sales or jersey sales to the WNBA. They haven't had this kind of star. So I don't think it's right for the older WNBA players, for the veterans, for the old heads of the WNBA to put down Caitlin or put down her impact or to try and lessen it when she is obviously what is carrying women's college basketball right now. And she is obviously going to be the most interesting and high-profile player in the league in just about a month to a month and a half time. To me, her legacy is already that of a GOAT. She is one of the greatest basketball players of all time, in my opinion, for the women's side of things. When you take into account college and the WNBA, I think she is undoubtedly so when it comes to women's college basketball, the greatest. I think she'll prove herself to be, for most people, the women's college or the women's basketball GOAT, rather. To me, she's already there. And I know it may seem a little bit premature or preemptive, but what she's done is unlike anything else I've ever seen in basketball, period. She is the Magic Johnson. She is the Michael Jordan. She is the LeBron. And I wasn't born or around for any of the starts of those careers, but I know the impact that it had on the league in terms of interest and ratings and viewership. And we've never seen anything like it on the women's side up until Caitlin Clark. For that reason, I think she's already one of the sports GOATs. So I've never been a huge AD hater or supporter, and I don't think I'm a hater of any athlete, but I've certainly been critical of him in the past. So I would understand why some people who jump to conclusions, who only watch clips, who are, and this is a very clip-oriented show, it's no secret. I don't expect that most of you are going to watch the entire program, but a lot of you do tune in for the clips, right? I've been critical of AD in the past, and I specifically remember this because it was the last take that I did before I went on like a 2.5-month, 3-month vacation during the summer where I addressed AD's availability on the court. And he only played 59 games last season, and LeBron played less than 65. I can't exactly remember what the number was. And CP3 played less than 65 games as well. And it was at the time when the rumor was CP wants to go play with LeBron in Los Angeles for the Lakers. And I was like, how are we going to say this is a championship contending team when availability is their biggest problem right now? And this only adds to it. Like, it wasn't solving their biggest issue. Last year, I felt like the biggest issue for the Lakers was shooting from beyond the arc and availability. And they didn't really improve in either of those categories, in my opinion, if they would have brought in Chris Paul at the time. That was my thought. And so saying that Anthony Davis was injury prone, I probably said it at the time. I don't have an exact transcript of what I said in front of me, but I probably did, no doubt. And I think it was absolutely fair at the time because 59 games. The season before that, hadn't played many games either. Like, it was the take that I did showed a 3-year trend, at least, of him playing less and less games. And it was not ideal. Like, out of the 100 and something games he could have played, he was not playing anywhere near what he should have been playing. And I outlined it really well, really eloquently over a year ago. So that's why I don't remember the exact stats. But I know last season played 59 games, right? This year, it seems like AD re-injured his eye over the weekend in a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Lakers lost that game, and now the Lakers are a little bit worried about rushing him back, right? The playoffs start in about 10 days. Today is the 9th, or is today the 8th? Hold on, let me look at my calendar. Today's the 8th. I'm already a day ahead, but we're about 11 days away, 12 days away from the NBA playoffs. So understandably so, the Lakers are a little bit concerned, don't want to rush AD back. You want to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. I apologize. This is like, there's some noise in the background. It's falling apart over here. But AD needs to be ready for the playoffs, right? And so the narrative that is surrounding AD right now is, oh, AD, there goes injury-prone AD all over again. AD for an eye poke, overly sensitive. Like the narrative and the memes on the internet, kind of funny, I'll be honest. But they're inaccurate, and they're not fair, in my opinion, because AD, to say he's been injury-prone this season would be to ignore everything AD has shown us. If you're out there saying after the eye poke that AD had to leave the Minnesota Timberwolves games for, here goes AD all over again. He's injury-prone, over an eye poke, a little injury here and there. He's already out on the bench. If you're saying that, you obviously haven't been paying attention this season, and I think it's a wrong assessment to make. Here's the graphic. We haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm glad to bring this back. Anthony Davis has played in 74 of the 78 possible games for the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2023-2024 NBA season. 74 games played. That's pretty good. Out of 78 possible games, AD has played 74 games. If you were just listening to the internet or the narrative or what's being told to you by people, you would probably believe, AD's an injury machine, right? Because he previously had been, and I'll be the first to say it. Last season, he played 59 games. The season before that, not ideal either. But that's not the case this year. So to say that would be unfair. To label AD as injury prone this season is a totally wrong characteristic or wrong argument to make. He's played 74 games. He's been available. He's been one of the cornerstones of this great Lakers team when they have played great. When they've been great on defense, it's been because of AD. When they have a good day on the glass, when they get offensive rebounds, when they get second chance opportunities, which is when they play their best basketball, it's because of AD and because he's been available this year. 74 games played. Look at the other stars, not just stars, but young stars who we consider to be available, some who are even in their prime, who have played less games this season than AD. Luka played 68 games this season. Anthony Davis has played more than him, and he's an MVP conversation. I'm not saying AD is an MVP, part of the MVP conversation, because I think Luka's a better player, but make no mistake, guys who we consider to be available and playing and young and in their prime and healthy, who we don't have injury concerns about, AD's up there with the best of them this season. He's played 74 games. I can't emphasize that enough. We haven't seen this kind of output from AD in years. This is the best version of himself. He's a great defensive player, a top 5 defensive player in the world right now, in my opinion. Is one of the most lethal offensive rebounders in the league when he's having a great night. I truly do think that when he's playing his best basketball, AD is a top 8, top 10 player in the league on any given night. He's not consistently, he hasn't been this season, but he can absolutely be from a talent perspective and on a night in and a night out basis. He can have nights every once in a while where he shows you why LeBron loved him so much and why LeBron wanted him to come from the Pelicans years ago. Giannis. 72 games. The guy who is an international player, who does things the right way, who's just an absolute dog, who has proven that he's one of the best players in the NBA, even if he's not number 1 or 2 this season. 72 games from the Greek Freak. Shea, one of our favorite players, SGA, to me, the most complete player in the NBA right now, 71 games. Young in his prime, no injury concerns. He's played less games than AD this season. Jason Tatum, 72. Devin Booker, 64. Jalen Brunson, 73. All guys who we consider to be the stars of today, the stars of tomorrow because they're young, healthy, and not guys that we consider to be injury prone or have injury concerns. So why are we labeling AD as that this year? And why are we clowning on the internet after an eye poke, which, by the way, is a very annoying injury if you've ever played any sport. I'm not saying I'm an athlete, but I've definitely been poked in the eye before playing football or playing basketball growing up. It's not fun. They'll stop. For those saying that an eye poke is a soft injury to go out of a game for, they stop UFC fights for eye pokes. They stop Taekwondo and grappling tournaments because of eye pokes. They consider it to be a dirty move in the WWE. Like, eye pokes are universally regarded as something that is very bothersome, can be irritating, is annoying, and can hinder your performance. It's not a soft injury or something that AD is limping to the bench for. I think in the end, we are trying to attack a player who has given us nothing but his best this season. I always try to be fair to the athlete. This is a situation where the NBA and NBA Twitter and the NBA fandom as a whole is being very unfair towards AD. I don't love it. Anthony Davis, out of 78 possible games for the Lakers, has played 74 games, has played more than all of those young stars who we consider to be the stars of tomorrow, the guys who are healthy, the guys who are available. Oh, he's doing it the right way. He's not missing games. He's not missing opportunities. He's not taking opportunities for granted. AD, to his credit, has not taken opportunities for granted this season. He has played in 74 games, more than all the stars on your screen right now. So why are we labeling him as unhealthy or injury prone or not available this season? I don't understand it. I think it's a narrative it's one of those narratives that grows so much beyond a player that it almost sticks with them. It's not a real-time narrative. It's something that's been pre-baked and put in the oven and it's just sitting there. And unfortunately for AD, did his prior seasons where he missed time add up to this and culminate to this? Probably. That's why people think that. Absolutely. Obviously, now that I think about it. But is it fair right now in the moment where he's played 74 games this season? Absolutely not. I hope that people can realize that AD is playing the best basketball he has in a long time, can acknowledge that he's one of the best defensive players in the NBA right now, can appreciate his offensive prowess when he's on and when he's just got one of those nights where things are rolling. And I hope that we don't allow these fake narratives that right now have no basis to take over what we think of a player. It's unfair for AD. He is not injury prone this season. He has been available. That is a lie, outright lie, if you believe that to be the case, and the statistics show you that. So on Friday, Bronny James broke the internet when he announced that he'd be declaring for the 2024 NBA draft. In his Instagram post where he made the announcement, he also said that he would be entering the transfer portal to maintain eligibility, which a lot of people on the internet seem to be up in arms about or unfamiliar about. I guess you don't follow college basketball. When a college basketball athlete is going to enter the NBA draft, they seem to always enter the transfer portal. It's not a one-of-one circumstance or the first time this is ever happening. It's very normal. It's almost like precedent that athlete enters the transfer portal to maintain eligibility. It's a very, I don't know how else to say it. It's a very normal practice. Nothing is awry. Like, this is the way that athletes usually operate. It gives them more flexibility down the line, and that's why they do it. So let me just read Bronny's announcement. Quote, "I've had a year with some ups and downs, but all added to growth for me as a man, student, and athlete. I've made the decision to enter the NBA draft while maintaining my college eligibility and will also be entering the NCAA transfer portal. Thank you to USC for an amazing freshman year. And as always, thankful for my family, friends, doctors, athletic trainers, and fans for their support. Bronny then signed off. It's a picture of him shooting a basketball. You don't really need all that information, but it is what it is. So Bronny, at this point, interesting circumstance, because the big critics of Bronny, are not even big critics, but the objective critics really, have said, look at Bronny's stat line. He is not ready for the NBA. In his freshman year, in about 19 minutes per game, Bronny averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game. So not earth-shattering numbers, doesn't scream superstar by any stretch of the imagination, but also doesn't scream bust. Like, it's not saying that Bronny is not a good basketball player. I think the problem for Bronny, that is also one of the problems with Bronny's game when it comes to a stats point of view, and this has always been the case for Bronny really since high school and since middle school, you could argue, like since AAU, was people who watched Bronny, and it's almost a compliment to him, said he plays just like his dad from the sense that he is such a selfless basketball player. If his shot is going to be contested, if he is tightly guarded, if he doesn't see a good window to shoot from and he doesn't feel comfortable with the shot, he immediately is looking to pass. He is not a ball hog by any stretch of the imagination. He's one of the only up-and-coming stars in college basketball or in the young basketball generation right now, I would say, who is a truly selfless basketball player, who is a pass-first basketball player. Because of that, Bronny's numbers, his shots, his points per game are not going to be as beefy maybe as some people would like them to be. He's not going to shoot in his freshman year 19 minutes per game, 12 points per game, or 10 points per game, or even 8 points per game. He's a very selfless basketball player who is coming off of a devastating cardiac arrest situation in the offseason, who collapsed on a practice court less than 9 months ago, probably 10 months ago at this point. Like, he is still trying to recover from that. In the announcement, it almost reminded me, it's crazy. Bronny's thanking his doctors and the trainers. He has had to overcome a lot, that because he is so private in terms of, as private as you can be as LeBron James' son in 2024. Like, he's on Instagram, he posts on TikTok, he posts on social, right? But like, we don't have a reality show that is following Bronny around by any stretch of the imagination. We don't know what it was like for Bronny. We really don't know the health scare and how bad it was. We don't know what it was like for the James family and how LeBron felt and how Savannah felt and how Bryce, his younger brother, felt like in the James household. And of course, his younger siblings and his younger sister. Like, that was a very trying time for them that happened in a really weird time. Like, when it came out and Shams put out the announcement that Bronny James collapsed on the court, it shocked everybody. And the fact that he was playing basketball less than 9 months later is a testament to the hard work that he was willing to put in to get back onto the court, and also a testament to his mental fortitude and his desire to play the game, which I think some people questioned, right? Is Bronny really playing this game because he wants to or because his dad is forcing him to? That was always an ongoing joke / kind of real conversation around the basketball world. But critics have pointed to those stats to put down Bronny. So in my opinion, if you were to ask me, with that being said, pros and cons list here. Is Bronny ready for the NBA? Absolutely not. He's not NBA ready right now. It doesn't mean that he can't become that, though. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, because there are excellent franchises in the NBA, just like in any other sport, right? That do things the right way, that are excellent, that are run top tier from top down. And then there's franchises that are god-awful, that are dumpster fires, that don't know how to do anything right, that seemingly every time they're given an opportunity to make the right decision, make the wrong one. I hope for Bronny's sake, and I think it will happen, because he doesn't have super high draft stock right now. Like, he's not going 1 of 1 is what most people think at this point, even though wouldn't shock me. I'll explain why in a second. It would shock me. That's unfair to say. But there are franchises out there that can really develop him to be a great player. Bronny, best case scenario by many NBA scouts, based on what they've seen, is believed to have the potential of being an elite wing defender, because Bronny's a great defender. He's a team first guy, and he really buys in on the defensive end of the floor. So scouts like that about Bronny. What don't they like? They don't like his consistency when it comes to shooting. He has an inability to score consistently at any level right now. It happened in high school. It's happened in college. It'll probably happen in the NBA. Bronny's not going to score 30 a night. That's not who he is. Not in college basketball, not in the NBA, not right now. He doesn't look like the kind of player at all. He's going to be a defensive wing who can become an elite defensive wing because he buys in on that end of the floor. He doesn't consistently shoot well, which is putting it mildly, to be honest. That's an area of his game that needs to improve, and that I think with the right coaching can. So you're looking for the right destination here, right? What are great destinations for Bronny, ideally in a perfect world? I don't say this just as a homer. The Miami Heat, I think, are an excellent destination for Bronny. I said this months ago, and some people agreed with it, some people disagreed. It is what it is. I don't think there is a better franchise right now, or a franchise who has proven to be better at developing young, scrappy, underdeveloped talent than the Miami Heat. They do it better than anybody else. I think the argument could be made that because of draft capital and what they've shown us in recent years, especially with their star right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Oklahoma City Thunder, excellent destination for Bronny. Also, both of those destinations have stars and really nice players in place, enough so that Bronny won't be the only or the biggest star on the team. OKC, not in a big market. Miami is. So the market kind of takes care of that, and the other players in the roster take care of that. But when it comes to OKC, even though they're not in a big market, Shai, Chet, Josh Giddey to some extent, right? I mean, I'm not going to get into it. But there are players on that roster who do have a sense of stardom or who people are interested in beyond Bronny. So he won't be the only guy. Like, it would be detrimental for Bronny to go to a team where he is the only guy or the only storyline. And maybe because he is LeBron James' son, he will take up the majority of the headlines, especially his first year in the NBA, if he ends up getting drafted. But I don't think that it would be to the extent that it could be if he's drafted to one of those teams that I think can develop him well and already have stars there. Last thing here, which is the overwhelming sentiment that I see on social media. And I don't want to bring it up because I do like LeBron, but it needs to be asked by somebody. How much of this is LeBron James pushing, dare I say, forcing Bronny to declare for the 2024 NBA draft because he himself, LeBron, feels like he's running out of time? I hope it's not the case. I don't think it's the case, but it's been brought up by enough people that it's like, yeah, everybody's kind of thinking the same thing. LeBron has been very open, very transparent, very publicly coming to the realization that his career is coming to a close, and he's talked about it. He talked about it literally a week ago. We had a segment on this show where he talked about LeBron James potentially retiring and how the one thing that he's waiting on, if anything, is Bronny. He's already solidified his legacy. He's got the rings. He's got the MVPs. He's not going to rack up any more individual accolades at this point, not any more important than he already has at this point, but he doesn't want to play with Bronny, and is the fact that he wants to end the storybook career with Bronny, pushing Bronny to enter the league before he's ready. I don't think so, but it certainly could be the case, even if it's unintentionally so. Could LeBron James, because he wants to play with Bronny so bad at the next level, sort of be forcing the issue within his household, within the James household, with Bronny, with Rich Paul's agent? Are they making moves right now that maybe are not in the best interest of Bronny and are more so in the personal interest and personal wants and desires of LeBron himself? I think you could say that. I don't think it's the best situation for Bronny. I think there are circumstances where if he's drafted into the league, he could be successful, he could grow, he could develop, he could become an excellent wing defender, which is, I think, what the best of Bronny James would be in the NFL, objectively, realistically. But he's got to go to the right spot, and he's got to go to the right coach. He's got to go to the right system. I think him with Eric Spoelstra, with the Miami Heat, with Pat Riley, with the pieces they have in place, excellent cultural fit, some history there as well. Not overwhelmingly so, but certainly a nice added touch. LeBron played with Miami, won back-to-back championships here. Kind of just makes sense. Would be a storybook ending. And then OKC, good stars, a lot of draft capital. The ability to mentor and develop guys is very obvious, is very apparent, is very much so proven right now for OKC. Like, they've proven they can do that. It works out well. Where do I think Bronny goes in the draft? Not first round, second round. There was a conversation a couple of years ago, and it was the reason why I thought Bronny would be a one and done had things gotten a little bit better for him, and had he declared, I thought he would have been the first overall pick, just because in years prior, LeBron has said, I'll go to whatever team drafts Bronny. And just because of jersey sales and hype and headlines alone, I thought, even if LeBron's not a great player when it happens, people are going to want to draft Bronny number 1 overall just because you're going to get LeBron as well. That seems to have changed. LeBron seems like he's almost married to LA. I know he's got a player option this offseason, so he could go wherever Bronny's looking to go. He has the ability to move, but I just feel like that conversation's not as strong as it was a year and a half ago when we talked about it. And so I think Bronny, objectively based on talent, is probably a second-round talent, maybe falls to the third in this year's draft. We'll see what happens, but I don't think Bronny is ready, but I do think he can become ready. That's just my thoughts on the situation. Don't look now, but the Dallas Mavericks are kind of sort of on fire. The Mavericks made a 22-point comeback against the Houston Rockets last night. Kyrie and Luka combined for 82. Kyrie had his season high, career high, I think franchise high with the Mavericks. Like, this is a team that is rolling, and they were I can't show the clips here because I don't have the media rights for it, but like, go look on Twitter. A lot of clips out there of Kyrie after the game, after having his personal high with the team, his personal high this season, bring together the guys, like celebrating as a team. That is very important. I think Kyrie, not saying he hasn't always been a team player, but just from perspective and look, this is nice to see, right? Like this shows you the Mavericks are the best version of themselves in probably 18 months going into this playoffs in less than 10 or 11 days. This is important, and this can be one of the deciding factors in a Western Conference playoffs that is going to be absolutely loaded right now. I think the Mavericks have a decent opportunity to make a run here in this playoff. I think they have really nice pieces, but I think, like I said this last offseason, or last season when he was traded to the Mavericks towards the end of the year, I was the first one to say, like, Kyrie Irving is the best point guard talent that the Mavericks have ever had. And people were pissed about it. People were like, well, what happened? Did Luka disappear into the ether? I don't consider Luka to be a point guard, to be perfectly honest. I think he's more of a shooting guard, or like a guard in general. I don't think he's a point guard. And then people mentioned Jason Kidd, and I was like, I get that Jason Kidd may have more history there, and he was talented, and he was athletic. Nobody's denying that. But by the same token, Kyrie's the better talent right now on the basketball court, and it was last season as an all-time point guard for the franchise than Jason Kidd ever was. He's more talented. So I think it's finally gelling together, and I think the Mavericks are a team to look out for, no doubt. I can't wait to see what they have in store. This is a team that is getting hot at the perfect time. Kyrie is buying in. Luka is buying in. Luka's been bought in. Luka's playing like an MVP candidate this year. I believe he has the second or fourth best odds, depending on where you look for the MVP award. Some may say he's the favorite. I personally don't think he is across the board. I think he's in second place in a lot of the odds. Second, fourth, sixth. I don't think he's won, but he's an MVP candidate. He's playing well. He's playing his best basketball. The team is gelling. They're getting some nice wins down here down the stretch. They are proving they can overcome adversity and a deficit. They don't have to just work from in front. They can work from behind. They can excel from behind. This was an important team win going into the playoffs pretty soon, in less than 2 weeks' time, 10 days' time, 12 days' time, and they're going to prove, hey, we can make a run here. We've got the guys. We're excited. I'm very excited about the Dallas Mavericks. I think this is a team that is gelling at the perfect time. They've got the opportunity now they will have an opportunity in the playoffs. I think they can seize it. It all depends on, do they look better in the playoffs and in the postseason than they did last year? I think Luka sort of collapsed in the postseason last year. I think that was important. I criticized him for it on the show. He's going to have to get over the hump this year. He's going to have to prove the haters wrong, or prove the critics wrong, rather, because not everybody is a Luka hater. I don't think there's many out there. I certainly am not, but I have been critical of him. He has to get over the hump this year. He's got the team to do it, and more importantly, arguably, he's got the teammate to do it that's buying in, and I can't wait to see what happens. We are just, like I said, it's the 8th. Playoffs start on the 20th. We are circling the NBA playoffs. I cannot wait. The Western Conference is loaded this year. I think whoever comes out of the West ends up winning the entire thing. Just off the top of my head, the talent, the teams, they are just too good in the West, and they're going to be battle-tested, where in the East, I feel like might be a little bit top-heavy. It's the Celtics, and then who else, right, at this point? We'll see what happens. I can't wait. I appreciate you tuning in this week. No guest this week. There will be one next week, though. Excited to kick it and talk with him about some basketball, some football. You'll see who it is next week. A first-time guest. Very special opportunity. Can't wait. Until next time, I'm Benjamin Cure. This is The Benjamin Cure Show. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your Monday.